Hello, everyone, and welcome to Week 3 of the 2018 NFL season. Last week, the Vikings faced off against the Packers, and much like the silk garment around my neck, it wound up in a tie. It truly was a matchup of the unstoppable force and the immovable object, and there were questionable calls from the referees on both sides, and also some pretty stellar quarterback play from both teams. But that game is in the past. Now it's time for the Vikings to return home and tee off against potentially the worst team in the NFL in quite some time, the Buffalo Bills. But before we discuss the game, I must of course review one of the beers from the Viking brewery in Iceland. Now, the Bills may have a simply dreadful football team, but they are known for their wild, inebriated fan base known as the Bills Mafia. If you're unfamiliar with the Bills Mafia, you can pause this video and go to YouTube to watch some of the hijinks that they get into. If you don't want to do the work, I'll tell you they're pretty much known by their friends and foes alike for getting drunk, lighting themselves on fire, and body slamming one another through folding tables. Sometimes all three at the same time. In light of their dark, mischievous nature, this week I'll be drinking Viking Rooker. The Rooker are kind of the dark side of the pantheon of gods in Norse mythology, similar to the Titans in Greek mythology. Examples of Rooker would be Hela, or Loki, or Fenrir, Hela's giant wolf dog, I think. They're the antagonists to the Odins and the Thors of the Norse mythology. So a bit of an homage to the Bills Mafia. This one's for you guys. It's best to keep them on your side. You don't want them mad at you. All right, let's crack it open here. And this week I'm going to more carefully pour it. Ooh. All right, so this is probably the darkest beer I've had yet from them. It already smells a little stronger. I don't know how much I included the last couple weeks in my reviews, but both of them were described as a lighter ale, whereas this one, the Viking Rooker, is known as more of a, it says medium brown premium beer. Mildekur Urvaldsbjør. It's 4.6% alcohol by volume. A darker, I don't know, it looks almost orange, doesn't it? Let's give it a taste. Yeah, it's kind of nutty. Yeah, almost a caramel, maybe a caramel kind of taste to it. It's very smooth. It's a bit hoppier than the other ones, but it's still not overpowering. I would say it's got a very... Yeah, caramel's a good way to describe it. A smooth, richer taste to it. Not heavy, not fruity really, but it's not, I wouldn't describe it as light, but considering the richness of the flavor, I'm surprised it's not more bitter or heavy on the aftertaste. Quick view of it. It's a very, very pretty color. Waste not. Okay, on to the game. Since many of the people who watch this don't necessarily follow football real closely, I will give you all a brief rundown on the Buffalo Bills and why this week should be a very easy game for the Vikings if such a thing exists in the NFL. Last year, the Bears made it to the playoffs for the first time in 17 years on a 9-7 record. Not very good. In the offseason, they lost the quarterback that got them there, Tyrod Taylor. But they kept the quarterback, Nathan Peterman, who they tried to start like mid-season last year, who threw 5 interceptions in his debut. They kept him and signed A.J. McCarron, who was the backup for the Bengals for several years, and who was so terrible that after the preseason, they sent him to the Raiders. They also drafted rookie quarterback Josh Allen, who is also not looking super great. He's a raw, unrefined talent, has lots of arm strength and other good measurables, but is arguably the least polished of all the quarterbacks who went in the first round. They started Nathan Peterman this year, and they got absolutely demolished in their first 2 games. Josh Allen has taken over and is expected to start against the Vikings this week. Now, it's really not right to focus so much on the quarterbacks since the offensive line is dreadful and has proven unable to run block or pass block. meaning the quarterbacks are constantly under pressure, and the Bills' most famous player, LaShawn Shady McCoy, is unable to generate any kind of ground game. Not that it matters necessarily, because McCoy is also dealing with a rib injury that will make him a game time decision today, and is also dealing with a ton of off-field stuff. He's implicated in a home invasion and battery case, allegedly. I don't know the correct legal terms to use, but that's what's going on off the field. And I believe it's his last year on this contract with Buffalo. So there's a good chance that when he looks at the Vikings defense, he just decides that rib injury is not worth playing through and tries to take it easy on himself to lengthen his career. I don't think he'll play this week. And then I'll say this quickly. The Bills' defense is also atrocious. They're bad at stopping the run. They're bad at stopping the pass. They've allowed 78 combined points total in the first 2 weeks of the season. And so many points, in fact, that the head coach took away play calling responsibilities from the defensive coordinator, the Vikings' previous head coach and defensive coordinator, Leslie Frazier, and one of their veteran defensive backs, Vontae Davis, quit and retired at halftime. So the Vikings should follow the example set forth by the Ravens and the Chargers the previous 2 weeks and blow the doors off the Bills. And it's so obvious to everyone. Even Vegas has the Vikings winning by more than 16 points, which is just an unheard of huge spread this early in the season, or really any time in the season. It's such a huge, obvious win for the Vikings that even I can't come up with a scenario in which they blow it. Yeah, upsets happen in the NFL, and the Vikings are capable of huge letdowns, but Buffalo is abysmal this year. It feels like they're trying to set themselves up to tank for 3 seasons bad. If I had to come up with, my classic Vikings negativity, a way that this could go wrong, I'm a bit concerned that Mike Zimmer is from the old school style of coaching where you believe that you grind out a victory through the running game and the defense. The smart thing to do would be to put the hammer down and rack up a ton of points against the Bills, put them away, and then rest your starters, because the Vikings have a short week against a Super Bowl contender on Thursday. And maybe Buffalo will be so bad that they'll be able to do just that. But I just feel a bit worried that without an offense to keep the pressure on him, Zim may try to call a game in an ultra-conservative, run-heavy way that keeps the score close enough that a couple fluke plays lead to an upset of the Vikings. Again, I'm not really too worried about that happening since the Bills are so bad, it's almost idiot-proof. And, if they get a chance against the Bills to really keep hammering out that offense, working on the timing, Cousins, Thielen, and Diggs should rack up a bunch of points in the first half and lead to a second half where they're able to rest some of their starters, get the second team out there, and get some snaps, take a little bit of the heat off, and be healthy for Thursday night. But I always have that little voice back there just saying, it's possible. No team wants to be embarrassed that many times. The Bills are a team full of professional football players with pride on the line, with jobs on the line, with contracts on the line. I just don't see how they come into Minnesota and win when they've been embarrassed by arguably worse teams. Anyway, this should be a comfortable, relaxing win for the Vikings, and after that nail-biter last week, we've all earned it. Skål för det. See you all on Thursday night. Go Vikings.